At 2:45 p.m. local time in the Eastern Pacific, the sea is open and visibility is clear. Inside the Combat Information Center, the watch team begins the way it always does. A calm radar sweep, steady returns, and nothing that seems urgent. USS Sampson is following a routine patrol route through a familiar transit corridor. There is no tension, no alarm, only disciplined monitoring across a vast stretch of ocean. Then, one contact changes speed. At first, it is almost too subtle to notice. A small surface return with a low profile moves close to the wave tops, but its acceleration does not match normal commercial traffic. It is not a gradual increase. It surges from idle to full throttle in seconds. The radar operator marks it immediately. Long range, steady bearing, speed rising fast. Within moments, more signs appear. No AIS signal, no registered call sign, no response to the first bridge-to-bridge hails. The vessel is not simply moving quickly, it is moving with purpose, cutting straight through a corridor known for long-range smuggling activity. Inside CIC, the mood changes. Displays refresh, sensors narrow their focus. Electro-optical systems begin shifting toward the contact's projected path. Then visual confirmation arrives. On the forward camera feed, dark shapes start flying off the stern of the vessel. One after another, small, heavy-looking packages bounce across the surface before slipping under the swell. That is not fuel. That is not gear. That is cargo being thrown overboard. For half a second, the room falls silent. Not from confusion, but from certainty. Everyone in that space recognizes the profile. Low freeboard, narrow beam, multiple high-output outboard engines. A textbook go-fast boat, built for one purpose. The contact keeps accelerating, carving a sharp white wake across the blue water. It is trying to outrun detection. It is trying to outrun authority, and it is already too late. On the bridge, the commanding officer does not need to raise his voice. The picture is already clear. A stateless vessel, no compliance. Active disposal of illegal cargo. Strong indicators of illicit trafficking in international waters. This is no longer surveillance. This is an interdiction. The order comes down with total control. Set condition 3, prep the helo. Across the ship, the response is immediate and automatic. Doors are secured, stations are manned. The destroyer does not need to make a dramatic turn. It does not have to. Its role now is command, control, and total dominance of the operating area. On the flight deck, the helicopter crew is already in motion. Rotors are unfolded, fuel lines come free. Systems power up. There is no panic, no wasted movement, only precision shaped by years of repetition. Back in CIC, the radar track is firm now. Speed confirmed, heading confirmed. The vessel is running flat out, but it is trapped by distance and simple physics. Out here, the open ocean offers no cover, no terrain, and nowhere to hide. Another burst of debris hits the water behind the suspect craft. More cargo, dumped faster now, more carelessly. That says everything. They know they have been spotted. They are trying to buy speed with less weight, trying to buy time with every package thrown into the sea. They will get neither. At 2:48 p.m., the flight deck reports green. The helicopter lifts cleanly from the deck and banks toward the intercept vector, staying low over the water. From the air, the ocean becomes a flat, unforgiving surface. Every wake can be seen. Every maneuver stands out. The destroyer feeds the aircraft live targeting data, range, bearing, speed, all updated in real time. This is not a wild chase. It is a controlled convergence. Below, the go-fast boat keeps running. Above, the helicopter closes the distance quickly. And for the crew of that small vessel, still throwing millions of dollars worth of cargo into the sea, one reality is becoming impossible to ignore. There is no coastline ahead. There is no safe harbor behind, and there is no escape route left untracked. What started as a routine patrol has now crossed the line from observation to action, and the next stage is already underway. At 2:49 p.m. local time, the MH-60R Seahawk drops lower and accelerates, its blades cutting through the heavy Pacific air. From 200 feet above the surface, the ocean turns into a map of movement, wakes, vectors, and patterns. Nothing stays hidden from this altitude, especially not a boat running at maximum throttle. The aircraft's forward-looking infrared locks on almost at once. The engines on the suspect vessel are burning hot, pushed beyond efficient limits. On the display, the boat shines bright against the cooler water, a narrow hull skipping across the swell as if it is barely touching the sea. Below, the go-fast makes its next move, a sudden turn to port, then starboard, zigzagging hard in an attempt to complicate the intercept. It is a familiar tactic. Force the aircraft wide, create uncertainty, gain a few extra seconds. And out here, seconds matter when you're trying to vanish into open water. But this helicopter was not launched to bluff. From the cabin door, the crew has a full view. Door gunners track every movement while the sensors hold a constant lock. The Seahawk is not just observing, it is documenting everything. every course change, every package thrown overboard, every move made to avoid capture. The pilot brings the aircraft even lower, skimming just above the wave tops. Rotor wash blasts white spray into the air. The sound alone is impossible to mistake, a deep mechanical thunder rolling across the water. The message is clear. You have been found. The aircraft makes its first pass along the vessel's beam, offset but unmistakably close. Over open frequencies, the warning is delivered, calm and precise. Unidentified vessel, you are operating in international waters. Heave to immediately. There is no reply, no radio call, no reduction in speed, no sign of compliance. Instead, even more cargo goes overboard. This time, the dumping is frantic, careless, desperate. One package clips the hull as it falls and bursts open on impact, sending a flash of white spray across the blue water. Even without a lab result, the message is clear. The stakes have just risen. Above, the Seahawk adjusts again, tightening the intercept. It holds just off the vessel's stern quarter, close enough for everyone on board to understand they are under constant watch. Close enough that their only remaining choice is to keep running in a straight line. But that will not save them. Back aboard the destroyer, the Combat Information Center follows every second in real time. The distance continues to shrink. The speed gap continues to close. Every angle now favors the aircraft. Then the order comes from the bridge, sharp and exact, escalate the warnings. The Seahawk banks left and drops lower once more. This time, the door gunner leans out, weapon aimed not at the men on deck, but at the water, just ahead of the bow. A short burst rips across the surface, landing roughly 10 meters off the starboard side of the Go Fast. The rounds send up tall, violent columns of spray. The message lands instantly. This is no exercise. This is no longer simple monitoring. This is a lawful command to stop. The vessel does not stop. Instead, it lunges forward again, engines howling, wake spreading wider. The helmsman pushes every last bit of power the motors can give. The hull visibly shudders under the strain. This is no longer a calculated move, it is panic. Inside the helicopter, no one needs to say a word. The warning stage is over. The pilot brings the Seahawk around for another pass. Closer this time. Lower, slower, tighter. The stern of the vessel fills the view. 3 outboard engines, fully exposed, unprotected, vulnerable. Back on the destroyer, the commanding officer watches the live feed. The threshold has been met. Active evasion, refusal to comply, destruction of evidence, and danger to safe navigation. Authorization is given. Disable the engines. The helicopter slides into position. The gunner steadies. No hesitation. No unnecessary force. Only precision. The burst is brief and controlled. Rounds hit the outboard motors. One throws sparks, another sputters, then dies. Smoke rolls upward as the vessel jerks sharply to one side. Its speed falls at once. The wake collapses. Water closes back around the hull. The pursuit is over. The Go Fast slows into a helpless drift, dead in the water, smoke trailing from the stern. Moments later, hands rise above the deck, high and empty. From above, the Seahawk remains on station, circling in control. No more warning shots, no more sudden movement. The vessel is stopped, and for the first time since 2:45 p.m., the tension begins to ease. Not because mercy was offered, but because control has been established. What comes next will not be about speed or force. It will be about boarding, evidence, and the law. And it arrives quickly. At 3:01 p.m. local time, the suspect vessel drifts motionless on the open water, its engines disabled, smoke thinning into the warm Pacific air. Overhead, the Seahawk keeps a steady orbit, sensors locked and cameras rolling. Nothing moves without being noticed. Below, the crew of the Go Fast is no longer trying to flee. They kneel on the deck with their hands raised, eyes fixed on the aircraft above. The adrenaline that drove the escape has burned away. What remains is exposure. Out here, the open ocean offers no cover. Along the port side of USS Sampson, 2 RHIBs are already hitting the water. Their engines surge as they break away from the ship and race toward the disabled craft. The handoff is smooth and immediate, from air control to surface control, from tracking to custody. This is where the mission changes tone. Weapons are still present, but they are no longer the center of the moment. Authority now comes from procedure, discipline, and the law. The RHIBs close fast, their white wakes cutting hard across the sea. A Coast Guard law enforcement detachment rides with the Navy boarding teams, fully equipped, clearly identified, and legally authorized. That coordination was in place long before the helicopter left the deck. As the RHIBs come alongside, commands ring out, firm, measured, and bilingual. Hands visible, stay still, no sudden movement. The suspects comply immediately. No resistance, no hesitation. 2 men, both appearing to be in their mid-30s, sunburned and exhausted, kneel on the slick fiberglass deck. No weapons can be seen, none are necessary. What surrounds them is already more than enough. Floating nearby, rising and falling with the swell, are tightly wrapped bundles. Dozens of them. Some remain intact, others have split open during the hurried dumping. Each one is spotted, photographed, and logged the moment it is recovered. The boarding team moves with practiced speed. One sailor keeps overwatch, another secures the suspects. A third begins the first safety sweep of the vessel. Everything they find confirms the picture. No flag, no registration, no radio, no life jackets, no navigation lights. This was never a boat built for a safe return. A field test kit is opened aboard the RHIB. A small sample is taken from one of the soaked bricks. White powder. The test strip turns blue. The result is immediate and unmistakable. Cocaine. By the time the report is sent back to the destroyer, the count is already underway. 47 bales recovered from the water and from the vessel itself. An estimated 3,400 pounds. Wholesale value around $58 million. In this world, that is not just a lost shipment. It is a major blow. The two suspects are restrained and formally processed under maritime enforcement procedures. They remain silent. They do not need to speak. The evidence has already said enough. Under international maritime law, a vessel with no nationality, a stateless vessel, falls under U.S. jurisdiction when it is involved in illegal activity on the high seas. With no valid registry and no compliance with lawful commands, authority now shifts fully to the Coast Guard. The legal process is clean, documented, and recorded from multiple platforms. There is nothing uncertain about it. With the suspects secured, the focus returns to the boat itself. The damage is severe, the engines are torn up, the hull is cracked along the keel, fuel is leaking into the water. There is no bilge pump, no anchor, and no safe way to tow it for hundreds of miles across open ocean. It is no longer just unusable, it is dangerous. One strong swell could turn it into drifting debris, capable of damaging a cargo ship or sinking a smaller vessel. Leaving it adrift is not an option. The boarding officer makes the recommendation official. The vessel is unseaworthy. Controlled disposal is advised. Back aboard USS Sampson, the commanding officer receives the report and answers without hesitation. No debate, no delay. Log it, prepare for scuttling. The seized cargo is transferred, tagged, sealed, and moved into secure storage. The detainees are escorted below deck. Medical checks are completed. Every step follows procedure exactly. What began at 2:45 p.m. as a single radar contact has now become a fully documented interdiction. Suspects detained, contraband recovered, legal authority established. But the mission is still not over. The ocean keeps nothing for long. Before the day ends, the final chapter will be written not with speed or gunfire, but with quiet, deliberate finality. By 3:45 p.m. local time, the suspect vessel rides low in the water off the destroyer's port quarter, held by a single recovery line. Up close, its condition looks even worse. The fiberglass is split wide along the keel. The engine mounts are bent out of shape. A thin oil sheen spreads slowly across the surface. This boat is no longer evidence. It is a liability. Out here, hundreds of miles from land, the ocean does not forgive careless decisions. An abandoned hull can drift for days, sometimes weeks, until it collides with something larger. A merchant ship, a fishing trawler, a tanker moving through the dark. Leaving it afloat would put lives at risk long after the men who ran it are gone. The Coast Guard officer aboard the destroyer makes the decision official. Unseaworthy, unsafe to tow. Controlled disposal at sea recommended. There is no argument. This is not about punishment. It is not about spectacle. It is about maritime safety and responsibility. Preparation begins at once. The boarding team strips away anything that can be recovered. Fuel containers are removed. GPS mounts are detached. Loose gear is taken off. The deck is cleared down to bare fiberglass. Nothing stays aboard unless it absolutely has to. The recovered bundles are already secured deep inside the destroyer. Every one of them logged, everyone sealed. Chain of custody preserved from the waterline to the evidence locker. That part of the mission is finished. Now comes the part no one celebrates. ARHIB returns alongside carrying a small charge package. Simple, controlled, exact. It is not meant to create a dramatic blast. It is meant to open the hull below the waterline and let the sea do the rest. The charge is placed near the stern, where the existing damage is already worst. The timer is set. The line is checked one final time. Throughout the entire evolution, the Seahawk stays overhead, circling quietly. Its cameras keep recording, not for drama, but for accountability. At 4:12 p.m., the bridge receives the final report. Area clear, ready to scuttle. The commanding officer looks out across the water. No speech, no pause. Just a calm acknowledgement. Proceed. The order is passed. Detonate on mark. Mark. There is no fireball, no thunderous blast, only a dull, muffled thump, barely noticeable over the low hum of the ship. Seconds later, water starts pouring through the breached hull. The boat tilts slightly, then harder. Air escapes from beneath the deck in hollow, uneven gurgles. The stern sinks first. The bow lifts for a moment, exposing chipped paint and scarred fiberglass, the last visible trace of a run that ended badly. Then it slips beneath the surface. In less than a minute, the ocean closes over it completely. The water settles. The thin sheen begins to spread and fade. No wreckage remains drifting on the surface. It is over. For the crew, the moment passes without ceremony. Watches resume. Logs are updated. Systems return to routine scanning. The destroyer does not linger. This was never about destruction. It was about closure. What remains now is the result. $58 million in illicit cargo will never reach shore. 2 traffickers will face prosecution. 1 smuggling route has been exposed, tracked, and disrupted. Somewhere on land, an entire logistics chain has just broken without warning. And none of it required missiles. None of it required headlines. None of it required force beyond what the situation demanded. This is what disciplined maritime power looks like. A warship built to counter ballistic missile threats shifted roles without hesitation. Surveillance platform, command center, aviation base, and support vessel for law enforcement, all in the span of a single afternoon. Now the ocean is quiet again. Radar screens return to clean, steady contacts. No fast movers, no anomalies. But the message has already traveled far beyond the horizon. Out here, speed does not guarantee safety. Distance does not guarantee anonymity. And when the United States Navy arrives, it does not chase blindly. It intercepts. By 4:30 p.m. local time, the sea has returned to its natural state. Calm, indifferent, immense. Where the Go Fast once drifted, there is now only a faint disturbance in the water, already fading. On radar, the contact is gone. The track is closed. For USS Sampson, the patrol continues, but the moment has changed. Below deck, the 2 detainees sit quietly under armed watch. Medical checks are complete. Procedures have been read. No statements have been given. They do not resist. They do not argue. There is nothing left to dispute. Out here, the facts speak for themselves. Inside secure storage, 47 bales of narcotics are logged and checked again. Every package is weighed, sealed, and documented. The chain of custody is airtight. From the moment of recovery to the moment of prosecution, every step is tracked. This is the side of the operation most people never see. There are no sirens, no dramatic music, no raised voices, only procedure. And procedure is what turns an interdiction into a conviction. The destroyer resumes its patrol route. Engines steady, sensors scanning wide. Pacific Watch does not stop because one boat has been intercepted. It exists because there are many more like it. Entire routes, schedules, and assumptions are built on the belief that the open ocean is simply too vast to control. That belief no longer holds. Pacific Watch is not about chasing fast boats at random. It is a layered mission built on intelligence, surveillance, and persistent presence, designed to disrupt smuggling corridors long before they ever get close to shore. Ships like USS Sampson are not out here by coincidence. They are placed with purpose, guided by patterns, data, and years of analysis. The traffickers never saw the net. They only realized it was there once it closed. For the crew, this operation was routine. Not because it was easy, but because it was practiced. Every step followed procedures refined over decades. Detect, identify, warn, escalate only when required. Use force with restraint, transfer authority, document everything. No shortcuts. That discipline matters even more in international waters, where every action may later be examined in court, in diplomatic channels, or in the public eye. That is why warnings are recorded, why every use of force is controlled, why each decision is logged in real time. The objective is not intimidation. It is legitimacy, and legitimacy is one of the strongest forms of deterrence. Somewhere else in the Pacific, someone watching this corridor will take notice. Not because a boat went under, but because it was found, because it was stopped cleanly, because once the process began, there was no way out. Cartel logistics depend on probability, on the idea that most runs will still get through, on the assumption that enforcement is too slow, too scattered, or too far away. But every interdiction like this changes the equation. One lost shipment is not just money gone, it is trust damage, schedules broken, routes exposed, crews reshuffled, and risk reevaluated. And in that world, risk is everything. USS Sampson was built to track submarines and counter-missile threats. On this day, it stopped a narcotics vessel. Tomorrow, it may be tasked with something entirely different. That flexibility is not accidental, it is doctrine. Modern naval operations demand ships that can shift from combat roles to maritime enforcement support without losing effectiveness. This is what that looks like in real conditions. No missiles launched, no lives lost. $58 million kept out of the supply chain. As the sun begins to sink toward the horizon, the destroyer stays on course. Watches rotate. CIC settles back into its steady rhythm. Another leg of the patrol begins. Out here, the ocean never announces what comes next, but the Navy is already watching. And the lesson from that afternoon is unmistakable for anyone paying attention. If you move narcotics across international waters, speed will not save you, distance will not shield you. And once a U.S. Navy destroyer commits to the intercept, the ending is no longer yours to decide. The ocean is vast, but it is not empty, and out here, there is nowhere to disappear.